All right. We are on. We're on both on X and YouTube. The link to YouTube is at the top of your screens. Michelle, welcome.
Good evening.
Good evening. Edward, welcome.
Good evening.
Welcome to the AI Amateurs Space. Episode 3. Man, it's growing. Crazy. We have Michelle on the board. Sierra isn't going to be able to join us today. She messaged me and she said she won't be able to do that today for a good reason, appears. So we're gonna roll without her. The YouTube live chat is members only. Thank you very much, everybody, for supporting the space. Michelle, what's on your? Oh, Steve is here. What's on your radar?
Well, there was this whole strawberry thing that happened last week, and the people go crazy. The account was a little bit crazy, posting um, hype about an upcoming release from OpenAI that never materialized. And then by the third time, he was delaying tactics and saying, no, it's tomorrow. No, it's this Friday. People kind of got away. And then he's no longer followed by OpenAI and or Sam. So I think sometimes a troll like this can strong arm a company into releasing. And I think that's what this account was trying to do. I still follow the strawberry account because it's funny and interesting, but I follow lots of interesting accounts I don't necessarily agree with. But that was a fun hype. It got into like these endless spaces that we've done sometimes together, like 16, 20 hours long. And the participants, people were really like, it's the first time I saw on a ground scale people freaking out and then saying, "Are you an AI? Is this person AI?" And like a girl was talking in the space, and it's now a new thing that's just when ChatGPT came out, we were freaking out like, is Jimmy the Other an AI or like it? But now we're getting closer and closer to this thing being a reality. We saw the demo at OpenAI of something talking really fluently, and it's gonna get more and more difficult to tell if a speaker on the speaker board is an AI or not at some point.
Man, you know what I'd really like to do with these spaces is to start slow. Kind of chat about what are you cooking for dinner? Because people are just rolling in. Omar just came in, and I have no idea what you said about strawberries. I just heard the strawberry.
We'll get around to it.
As I'm trying to respond to trolls, set up the space. The first few minutes should literally be, hey, what did you have for dinner? How are you? How is your night going?
I did a bike ride last
Did you
Friday.
catch the baseball game? Please. Anyway, I'm having some YouTube issues right now. Hold on. Give me 1 second. I'm having some YouTube issues right now. Hold on. Give me 1 second. We shouldn't be having this issue today. I don't know what's going on.
Gin and tonic something. So it tastes great.
Okay. Omar, did you hear anything about strawberries?
Yeah. Project Strawberry.
Project Strawberry. All right. Edward, did you hear about this Project Strawberry?
I did not. I'm actually like looking at the DNC type of stuff, trying to see what the hell's going on with the world as far as that goes. So I was just, and then I saw you pop up. I'm like, man, I got to check this space out. This looks pretty cool.
Project Strawberry is believed to be the new code name for OpenAI's secretive Project Q. It aims to enable AI models to 1. Plan ahead, 2. Autonomously search the internet, 3. Conduct deep research. The project focuses on improving AI reasoning capabilities, potentially revolutionizing how AI models operate. Key points are enhanced reasoning. Strawberry models are expected to surpass existing AI models in logical reasoning and problem-solving abilities. 2. Long-term planning. They could perform tasks requiring a series of actions over an extended period, opening up new possibilities. 3. Potential applications. These advancements could lead to breakthroughs in scientific research, medical diagnostics, engineering problem-solving, and creative content generation. 4. Ethical considerations. As with any AI development, ensuring responsible ethical use will be crucial. Current status. Project Strawberry is still under development. Its full capabilities and implications remain to be seen. You know, I was watching, before I joined here, I was watching Jensen's fireside chat with Zuckerberg. And I think they mentioned, they didn't mention specifically Project Strawberry, but Jensen said something about how these AIs will go on for an extended period to think, consider options. Like right now, they're kind of, you say something and they say something back to you immediately. And in the future, they're going to think for extended periods, he said. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but maybe Robert might explain to us. Robert, how are you?
I'm doing good.
Welcome to our AI amateurs space. This is the AI, you're an AI expert. What are you doing here?
I'm not an expert. Who said I'm an expert?
Yeah, I mean, you compared to me, you are like 1,000 times expert. So what's this Project Strawberry thing?
I think Omar nailed it. It's two things. One, it's a bunch of signaling coming out of OpenAI that something is strawberry coming. Sam Altman posted a picture of him, of his garden with strawberries in it. So he sort of threw accelerant on these rumors that a strawberry version is coming. And then there's this guy, Mr. Strawberry, out on X that has coalesced a whole bunch of people into his little tribe. And for last week, he had a couple spaces with, I don't know, a couple thousand people, hoping that something new was coming out of OpenAI. And I think that wore thin pretty quick. And, he's still there.
All right. Yeah, so people are, again, complaining about the name of my space. This is like deja vu now. I like this name because I want people to be, 99.99% of the world is amateurs when it comes to AI. We have no idea what Michel is talking about when he says Project Strawberry. And I am in that group. And I want people to be able to feel that they can join the space. Okay. So if you don't like the name of the space, you can leave if it bothers you that much. If people start complaining about it, I will block them because it actually increases my moderation need and I can't focus on what Robert is saying. So stop being so fucking selfish and listen.
If you're a developer,
to
there's a
what's
show
being
on
talked
Thursday
about.
mornings that is probably for you, right? If you're somebody who's really, really building this technology and wants to get nerdy about it.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much, Michelle. So what should we expect from Project Strawberry? Is it coming soon to the public?
I hear a new model is being developed, and I expect one by the end of the year. But is it going to be out tomorrow? There's been no signaling of such, so I would assume we're not going to see any major things until after Burning Man's over, which is like the second week of September.
Michelle, do you agree with that?
Well, yeah, and also like the birds told me that it's all stuck up into lawyers because remember how OpenAI is structured before they achieve AGI and after they achieve AGI, there's a bunch of like their internal contracts and revenues and complicated spaghetti of companies that they are and the big internal debate that was probably happening is that is GPT-5 API, is this strawberry thing AGI or not? And then depending on the yes or no question, it has a bunch of complicated work, compensation, and contractual conditions. So lots of lawyers making lots of money right now debating this.
Edward?
Yeah, I was wondering if there's any legal framework as far as at the federal level or at the state level to regulate any part of these AI companies in general, even if in the small way. I haven't heard anything about that.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. When the government wanted to talk about regulation, they invited them and said, like, "What should we do?" They're not catching up fast enough.
Okay. Hey, Edward, to what extent do you use AI in your daily life?
Every day, I use ChatGPT to make all my listings for eBay, Amazon, stuff like that. I mean, it's just so accurate when it comes to like we sell a lot of flower seeds and stuff like that, roses, hydrangeas, whatever, and it's very accurate at how to germinate, how to plant them, how to go by step procedures. And these things are, go back, hundreds of years. So it's all that data has been accrued, and it compiles it really well. I have to make slight adjustments on it, but I mean, come on. I mean, it basically does 90% of all my work when it comes to descriptions.
Okay. Omar, to what extent do you use AI in your daily life?
Yeah, I use AI all the time, but I'm about 10 minutes away from home driving, so maybe I'll
Okay.
talk more then.
Okay. Danny?
Oh, just a very quick question about Michel when he was saying AGI. So you're talking about the generative kind of standards. So strawberry will probably be more of a generative type.
No, they talked about a lot about this thing making plans and being some sort of able to send agents to do stuff. So it's a form of AI that has agency and planning and reasoning. So that starts to get into something very different than the LLMs we know right now.
Agreed.
Robert, I'm sure a lot of people ask you in your personal life about how to use AI in their daily life.
They're
What
mostly
do you tell
ignoring
them?
it.
What do you tell them? Like, if you had to give an average person who knows nothing about this stuff one tip, use this to increase your productivity during the day.
Force yourself to use it. That doesn't mean you're going to listen to it, but force yourself to use it for every freaking thing you can, because then you're going to figure out what it's good for, what it's not good for, and how it could help your life and how it could, do things. For instance, I went around many museums this summer with my kids, taking pictures of everything in the museum and sending it to ChatGPT. ChatGPT has a new vision feature. We call it in AI multimodality or multimodal models. and you can send a picture in, and it'll tell you about it. And it's quite accurate. It's quite amazing. It makes going on a road trip a lot more interesting. It knew the squares in Prague that I was walking around in. I took a picture of the square, and it told me where I was and what was going on in the square. Right. Um, I took I did a whole bunch of stuff like that with menus. What should I eat at this restaurant? And it's pretty accurate. Um, Stuff like that. Legal docs, if you're incorporating a business or getting a divorce or something, send the docs to an AI. Now, some of them might not take the format you have, like a PDF or a Word doc or something like that. So you'll have to figure out how to get it into the AI of your choice, whether it's Quad from Anthropic or Google for Gemini or ChatGPT from OpenAI. Um, you have to figure out how to get it in there. But once it's in there, it's pretty amazing.
Michelle, thank you, Robert.
Yeah, Robert, on that, when you have a PDF and you want to work it with AI that's not able to just take it as is, there's an accessibility feature in the regular Adobe PDF reader to show it as like plain text. So it outputs a file that's basically a notepad like .txt. Then you can put that into AI, any AI that takes text.
Danny,
Oh, as an API, Michelle, kind of thing. So you're just embedding an
No,
API.
it's in
okay,
the
can we hold on, guys? Step back for a second. So you're losing the audience again. Okay, like I wonder if some people are just too smart for this space. This is supposed to be literally dumb it down to others. Okay, like dumb it down to me. I want to understand AI. I know nothing. When you guys start talking among each other like that, I have no idea what you're saying, and nobody does in the audience.
But
Okay,
let's
hold on. Sorry, Robert. What is happening? What in the world?
yeah, man, can I
Please
jump in there?
stay on mute. No, please stay on mute. The heck? Michelle, so Robert's advice to the average person was force yourself to use it. What advice do you give to your friends who don't necessarily follow technology?
Well, I challenged them to ask it to cook because that's like making food is something everybody deal with at different levels. Maybe they're able to scramble an egg, maybe they're able to do incredible stuff. But challenge it to like you give it the ingredients you want, or you give it a recipe you already have and you want to modify something, and that's tangible. And especially with the people that are not super tech nerds and working with computers all day, and I tell them go accessibility, copy text. Is that I understand what you meant by like this is confusing, but the cooking thing is what got my mom on board because we were trying to do a chicken and we want to do it fast, and she had this new cool pressure cooker, but I'm like, this is gonna taste like boiled chicken. Like, can we roast it at the end so we have crispy skin? And I was like, let's use ChatGPT. He guided us all the way in to do a 30-minute intense vapor pressure cooking thing, and then another 20-minute in the oven that was preheated, and everything was timed perfectly, and the chicken was cooked to perfection, and that got her on board because we literally had something to eat out of it, like a really a result that is in the real world, not just like a response or the chatbot talks back to you. You have something that you created.
Okay. Now, when you recommend an average person to use AI, what chatbot do you recommend to them? Which one?
It was specifically Microsoft Bing, and that they renamed it Copilot now because it gave free access to GPT-4. And that was probably like lots of people tried ChatGPT before. Oh, I tried it. It's not that good. But they tried the 3, and there's a big step in the in the not reasoning, but in the quality of a result out of ChatGPT 4. Now that's all the free users have this 4.0 mini that's pretty decent. I lean towards the biggest player in the game, OpenAI, ChatGPT, and making sure that they install the correct app, not like the million copies that there are out there.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it, Robert? That despite the chatbots proliferating, I mean, there are many of them now.
Yeah.
And earlier today, I asked 4 of them about Tesla's batteries, for example. And the responses I got were very similar in content. It's just the presentation was different. So at the top of your screens is the 4, Grok, Gemini, ChatGPT, and Perplexity. And you can see the kind of comprehensiveness and detailed response from Grok versus Gemini is half of it has got the sources, and then ChatGPT is the simplest, and then Perplexity. So,
Yeah.
Robert, which one do you recommend to people when you recommend to an average person?
ChatGPT. I like the voice features and the vision features there. Anthropic Claude is one that I'm using a lot more for just what you said. The format, the way it talks to me, I like the answers better, and I find a lot of people are saying the same that I follow here on X. But ChatGPT is a good one to start with, and see if it sticks in your life. Right?
Yeah, maybe because it's probably the one that most people have heard about. They haven't really heard about Perplexity, let's say.
Yeah.
So they may be more amenable to using ChatGPT. Okay, force yourself to use it.
Yeah,
Let's see.
and I thought the recipe idea is an excellent one. I forced myself to take a picture of my wife's cooking, and it told me what the name of the soup she was cooking, what was in the soup, how to make the soup, right? All from a single picture.
Yeah. Mind branches, go ahead.
What's up, guys? I think when I'm introducing someone new to AI, and it's super cheesy sometimes, but I think using the audio generating like Suno and showing them how to make a song with it is like the quickest way to get
Yeah.
them to have that aha moment. And it's like so easy. If they have kids, they can make a song about their family or whatever, and they just love it. It's a good way to intro.
Try to get some fun in the game, right? AI art programs like Midjourney are a good way to do that. AI video now is really crazy, but that's a little bit nerdier on most places. And you're right. There's a lot of fun things to do with AI.
Mind branches, what do you use AI for in your daily life?
Man, everything. It's the first thing I reach for. So I was just designing a course to teach people some AI stuff, and so I grabbed ChatGPT. I fed it a bunch of context, talked about what I wanted to do with it. I was trying to build something that was focused on like using AI for self-development, reflection, self-improvement, like AI journaling, getting feedback, using it as a thinking partner. So I just brain dumped into it and asked for an outline, and it gave me an awesome starting point. So a lot of times my first draft of anything is going to be AI. So I just dump my ideas in, it organizes them, it outlines them, I can have it expand on certain areas, and I'm doing that all of the time. Like practical things that like I just reach for all the time. One of them is 11 Labs. Their app, you can download their app for free. And what it does is takes any website that you're on, and you can share the website like on your phone. You click share and their little icon pops up. You click that and it'll read the whole article to you. So like when I'm driving around, listening to blogs and things it's a great tool for that. So that's one I use daily.
One way, Yaman, I tell people is it can read the Bible to you. It can help you read the Bible, which is true. You can actually have it help you with any book. I'm reading a machine learning book right now that I have no clue about the math in it. It has a lot of formulas. I take a picture of a page, send it to ChatGPT, and tell it to read it tell me what's on the page in like a fourth grader's level. So it dumbs it down, sort of like you asked us to do.
Okay. Thank you. Finflexity, how about you? By the way, Finflexity, what time is it over there?
6 in the morning.
Finflexity? Can you guys hear him?
6 in the morning.
You hear him? Okay. I'll be right back.
I'm not next to the piano. I would do the elevator music thing.
Yeah, you don't have to wait for me when that happens. You can just keep talking. Finflexity, what do you use AI for?
My stuff is mostly technical, so I don't really use ChatGPT and all very much. I'm much more in the side of research, so I'm currently building a foundational model with my university friends. So we're busy with that. I don't get to use a lot of ChatGPT though.
You're building a foundational model? Wow. Okay. Okay. Next
Can you
question
help
I had.
people understand what a foundation model is? Because I feel like not everybody understands that piece of word you use.
Yeah. Foundation model in AI refers to a type of large-scale machine learning model that is trained on a massive and diverse data set, usually in self-supervised manner. These models possess a broad understanding of language, concepts, and patterns, making them adaptable to a wide range of tasks across different domains without extensive task-specific training. So 1, trained on massive data sets. 2, adaptable to various tasks. 3, generalizable knowledge. 4, multimodality. Edward?
Yeah, man. I was just wondering if I can ask you, what do you currently use like AI stuff for, or ChatGPT or whatever? What do you use it for?
I use it a lot actually for my spaces, to prepare for my spaces, kind of say, what's happened in the last 24 hours about this topic, that topic. I ask a lot of, definition questions. What's this? What's that kind of thing? Let's see. Like the last time I was cleaning the house and I got a splinter, and it kind of went a little deep. And I took a picture and showed it to ChatGPT, and it was able to identify what happened, how bad is it, what I need to do. And then I had a conversation with, okay, well, I can't do that. So how about this? I can't do that either. How about this? And then I kind of pushed a little bit. What about if I can't do that too, kind of thing? And then I even asked it, like, when do you think this happened based on this picture? And it identified exactly when it happened, like when I got the splinter, which was kind of stunning. That was my wow moment. I think Grok got really good. I think Grok 2 is really good. I'm now using it for generating thumbnails for my YouTube videos. I think that's going to continue to be a huge help for me, generating thumbnails, researching a topic on the fly. Like when I'm hosting spaces, sometimes when someone says something that I might not have heard about, I can immediately type it in and get a 1 paragraph, 2 paragraph summary of it. So I think that's really good. I'm also using it now. I just started doing it today, actually, on my YouTube channel. So when I live stream it on StreamYard, after it ends, StreamYard gives you an option to generate short clips. And I can just click one button and it generates the clips within minutes. And I can quickly review what the clip is and I post it to YouTube all from one screen. And that saves me like hours, which is amazing, you know? So like Robert said earlier, force yourself to use it. I'm at that stage. I'm trying to force myself to use AI as much as possible. And as I do that, I'm just discovering new ways of using AI in my work. So Michelle, then Finflexity.
I just wanted to clarify the Grok update we just got. We currently have Grok 2 Mini beta, so it's not even the big Grok 2, it's the mini Grok 2
Okay,
that we
thank
have
you.
access to. And they've plugged in Flux that generates images into Grok, but that's like
Okay.
an open source image generator, but it unlocks the image generation within Grok, which was fun
Thank
to
you.
play with.
Finflexity.
Yeah, actually, one thing that I use AI with and it is surprisingly good with is making charts from, raw data. Just go into ChatGPT, give it a Excel table, and I think it does very well with charts.
What Grok 2 does?
GPT, and I think Claude also does well.
Okay. I mean, I don't like. I personally, I don't use tables too much, but I'll keep that in mind. Robert and then Mario.
It's really good for tech support, either of your computers, like how do I clean install a Mac or something like that. It's really good at that. Or helping you with fixing a machine. Hey, I got a washing machine that's blinking an error code. Here's the error code. Here's the washing machine. It'll tell you a lot about that. It's really good at helping you buy things like tires. I bought some tires with ChatGPT, and it told me all about performance tires and was quite accurate.
Okay, Mario.
Yeah, hey guys. I've used it for kind of all the things that everybody's spoken about here. A little bit of software development. So, for example, I had a table in a PDF file, and the client gave me, popped it into ChatGPT, also Claude, and said output an HTML version of this, and boom, that HTML runs. And in Claude, they have something called Reflect, so you can actually tell it to send it to Reflect and actually run that code that you've generated. So it prompted it with give me pull down menus for certain items on the list, and boom, it was able to run in Replit, which is I'd recommend if anybody feels like playing around with it. Also, recently got a riddle that I solved. It took me 8 minutes manually to solve it. A friend of mine solved it, who's much very high IQ. Solved it in about 2.5 minutes, but got the wrong answer, close but wrong. So I went to the GPT's find PHIND, came up with his answer the first time. ChatGPT came up with the correct answer instantly in about 15 seconds. So I think it's not widely recognized that it can be really good at some logic problems. It can be really bad at some others and give you funny results, but some of them it seems to be very good now.
What was the problem that you were solving, Mario?
I just popped it into the purple pill down there. It's a kind of a logic problem where the problem is solve this 3-digit you know uh, code on a lock, and it gives you 6 different clues about, okay, here's 3 numbers, it's 2 of these are correct but in the wrong position, that kind of step-by-step logic problem. And I was actually shocked that ChatGPT solved it right off the bat, with no iterations, just first time.
Okay, thank you. Roger.
I use ChatGPT as a coach. I'm a software engineer. I'm also a designer and a musician. I also use it as a screenwriter. I do ChatGPTs. Sorry, I do GPTs. Excuse me, on OpenAI For example, I gave them a personality. Hey, imagine you are Walt Disney. You have all the wisdom of Walt Disney, and you speak to me like he does, so in first person. So if I make a movie, for example, I use Mid Journey, I use Runway, and I use ChatGPT, the paid version for all of those that don't have used it yet. And I use it for coding also. I think I overuse AI, guys. I'm overusing it for everything. Pretty
You're
much.
overusing. Okay, I've never heard that before. That's the first. Overusing AI. Roberts, what do you think about that?
That's where we're going. My favorite, by the way, when you're using it for anything, my favorite prompt is please show me all points of view on X. X could be, tires, a restaurant, um, health, whatever, and a political issue even, and it'll tell you all points of view. It's really a really good first starting
I
prompt.
yeah. I also had a breakup with a girl from Poland a year ago, and I used it as a psychologist. It really helped me a lot. That was kind of cool. Hmm.
Okay. You have to stay on mute. Raise your hand. Thank you, Danny.
Oh yeah, I use ChatGPT like everyone else as well. I've tried maxai.me. It's pretty interesting as well. It's a type of add-on that you can use for Google and certain summarizations and everything. And overall, I'm trying to find something as for coding. They say GitHub, Copilot, and everything else. But if you have any ones that I could use, I would love to have the information.
I'm not very experienced. I'm not experienced at all in coding. So, Robert, do you think I should get into coding? But before that, let's get these two hands real quick. Michelle and then Mind Branches.
Sure.
I mean, the riddle password code it was able to crack is impressive and fun, but there are still things that AI are not able to solve, and it's a very quick one. So challenge your favorite AI with this riddle. You put a marble into a glass, you flip the glass upside down, then you take the glass and put it in the microwave. Where's the marble? And this whole thing was like the glass on the table, and the AI is going to say, well, the marble's in the microwave, but we all know that if you flipped the glass, the marble is either on the table or on the floor. So there's sometimes there's gaps like these AIs. You said you want to code with it. OpenAI is really good, and then if you want to get fancy, there are GPTs that are more refined and towards coding. But sometimes something as simple as like this marble and a glass challenge, it fails miserably.
That's a good point. I want to share because
Thank you, Danny.
oh, sorry.
Oh yeah. Oh, sorry, mine. Yeah, for ChatGPT, it's not bad for information coding, but I think it just says at the end it gives you an example of. But yeah, thank you.
Robert, do you think it makes sense to learn how to code and use AI in the process at this point, or do you think we're coming up fast to a point where we're just going to use natural language English to speak to Optimus, let's say?
Coding teaches your brain how to think, and if you're going to learn how to program, that means you're really trying to build something and learn how to build that. I think all of those skills are going to be good for you, even if 5 years from now you're using English to do all your coding, because you'll understand how to ask for things, right? And it's sort of like AI art, same thing. If you know a lot about art, you're going to get better results out of the AI art tools because you're going to know, all sorts of paints and colors and styles and artists, and if you're trying to get a photo out of it, you might know about what kind of camera lens to use and what kind of opening to use on the lens to get the effect you want, right? The more vocabulary you have about something, the better you're going to be able to use these AIs, even if you never really code or really do any art with them. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Omar, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Okay, Robert, then how do you kind of, like, how should I go about it then?
There's small things that you can do, like, hey, ChatGPT, can you make me a Twilio API call, sort of like what Uber has? You know, when you call a driver, you're using Twilio to make the phone call, which hides the driver and you from each other, right? And so that's a piece of code that you might need for an app you're building. Well, you can ask for it and it'll give it to you and it'll show you. And then if you don't know how to even incorporate that into your coding tool, you can ask for help and it'll tell you how to do it, right? It's AI is really nice because it doesn't get frustrated or snippy with you because you're asking a stupid question.
Okay, Mario.
So I would recommend people just start with the simple teach me Python, right? And it will start teaching you Python. And if you do it on Claude, again, it has that a little button at the bottom where you can say send this code to Replit, and you can actually run the code there, confirm that it actually works. And if you get far enough, you can actually publish it. It'll give you a link, and it will actually publish it so that you can share that link, and anybody can go to your page and actually run that code.
Okay. Roger, then Michelle.
So for you guys, I come from a background of geopolitics. I did my thesis on AI, but I had no programming skills. It took me 3 years to learn it. I will say, if you wanna, I will highly recommend you learn how to code, just for the fact that Robert said, it's gonna make your brain function very differently. You're gonna see the world in a new lens, and you're gonna be faster at prompt engineering. Okay, my advice, just to finish the sentence, my advice is, um, choose JavaScript or Python, or better yet, study data structures and algorithms and enjoy the ride. Don't listen to YouTubers that say that you're going to learn it in 3 months, in 2 months. It's bullshit. It takes time. Highly recommend
Okay,
it.
thank you. Michelle?
I mean, the very first dip into programming, which I was putting off until we got LLMs. I was like skating by, doing all of the computer stuff, but saying like, "Oh, those wizards, they use code and make stuff run." And I challenged myself to step by step have ChatGPT, and it was the old three, ChatGPT 3, to guide me into coding a calculator and really understanding under the hood every step of the way how the Python code actually computes, and then you're able to do basic calculator stuff and then more cool like scientific calculations, and then you get deeper down the rabbit hole from there.
Okay. So, Mario, you said teach me Python. Why Python?
Yeah, generally it's a good place to start. It's the language of Python is pretty close to English compared to other languages, and generally speaking, that's where people tell you to start. It's widespread. There's tons of support around Python, tons of usage. It's not going anywhere. It'll be around 10 years from now. I guess those are main reasons.
But is it a language that's used predominantly in machine learning AI applications?
Yeah, yeah, it is. You know, if you're, you can get very far with Python, and a lot of guys that are working with AI, it's probably the number one language of the most people working with AI.
Okay. Danny? Danny?
Hi. Yeah. I think people should pick a project because then maybe it's not Python. It could be C++ if they're doing something with Arduino. And I think AI will make it really easy to go forward with any kind of project you have. And you should think about being a jack of all trades. So you should know about programming, but you should also know about server administration, maybe the Arduino if you need. So kind of know a little bit about everything so you can dig into it and do what the AI wants you to do, basically.
Okay. Mind branches.
I just want to expand on Robert's point of learning more vocabulary because
Can you
AI.
guys hear mind branches?
Oh, you guys can't hear me?
I can hear him.
I'll do a loop.
Yeah, I'll be back.
I'll take a loop.
When it's only Liam and he's doing it, you don't have to.
Danny, while he's looping, I agree. Picking a project is important. Like almost every programmer you talk to, they started out with a game. Did you?
I started with a website like 15 years ago.
Okay.
I wanted to do a calculator that does not have the number 8 and number 9 misaligned by 1 pixel, and it is misaligned in Windows 10 and 11. It's very, very annoying, and now I use my calculator all the time.
That's pretty funny. Mind branches?
Hey, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Cool. I just wanted to expand on Robert's point of learning more vocabulary for whatever it is you're working on with AI. It's super helpful. So for video prompts, knowing how a director would describe a scene, for image prompts, knowing some of the kind of key terms to use to really get those high quality images. I put a couple examples in the chat of some kind of collected lists of words, but I often just ask AI when I'm starting with something like, what would an expert in this area be talking about, or what types of topics should I be aware of? And that usually just provides me with a really good list of words to start with. That's super helpful. And then the other quick point I wanted to make, that staying on top of these models as they're continually evolving, I was amazed. I love that example of the marble test with ChatGPT and finding those prompts where you can kind of see if you can trick the AI or find its limits. I did an example of that marble test, and whatever update they recently did to ChatGPT, it nails it. So it's definitely improved its reasoning to some level. So it's always exciting to see that too.
Okay, great. We usually keep this space to 1 hour, but we're going to go on for another hour today. Let's do 2 hours. We have great speakers. I don't want it to go to waste. If everybody has time, I have questions. Finflexity.
Yeah, one more thing I would just like to say about coding is the fact that, once you actually start using a language or, learning a language, it's the natural step you'll take is that you'll actually learn to expand your own knowledge base by learning something else. So, like, I started myself with JavaScript, and then I'm like, I want to make a website. So I go on to learn HTML and CSS, and then it's basically never ends. You will always be in an intellectual curiosity to learn more and more.
How did your audio quality got so much better all of a sudden? Did you do something?
And yeah, I got onto the phone.
You say it again?
I got onto the phone.
Oh, I see. Okay, cool. Robert?
Should we talk at all about what the difference is between the free AIs that people are getting access to, like the Google Gemini that's showing up in Gmail and Calendar and other things,
Sure.
versus something you pay, $20 a month for, like ChatGPT or Anthropic Claude?
Yeah, I mean, I actually pay for Advanced Gemini, and then I have Grok 2 now because I have Premium Plus, and I don't pay for ChatGPT, but I probably cancel Gemini soon. But I think I saw two hands before that, before we changed topics. mind branches.
Well, are we still staying on programming? I have a slightly different topic.
Yeah, just make your comment, and then we're gonna switch topics to what Robert said.
Sure. I was just going to say, giving AI a role and asking it to ask you questions is a great way to prompt. And then you end up feeding it a bunch of context by answering its questions, and then it can give you a really good answer. So you used the example earlier of a splinter. If you say, ChatGPT, act as a doctor that specializes in XYZ, ask me questions about what I'm dealing with, and then provide me with a summary or your recommendations, it'll ask you a bunch of questions, so you don't even have to think about prompting it. You just have to answer the questions.
Interesting. Thank you. Omar.
Yeah, I think that LLMs definitely make coding much more accessible. It's something that an average person can do much more easily now without having to get into it. And I think people kind of overcomplicate it sometimes, saying, like, oh, it's going to change the way you think, or you're going to be, approaching things in a whole new way. I mean, maybe that is true to some extent, but programming is really just another tool on your computer. Just like you learn how to use Photoshop and now you can edit images and create images, coding is just about using a program on your computer to create other programs or just provide instructions. So everybody could use programming in their own life for something if they knew how to do it. And the LLM just makes it much easier to do. So you can say, for example, hey, I want to make a simple app that has a text box and, a username and password field, and then a big image, and then after that, some text. And it can give you the code for a web page to do that. And as you're learning, you can talk to it. You can ask it to do things. You can ask it, hey, what does this mean? Can you explain this code to me? And if you use something like GitHub Copilot, it can actually write the code for you. You write a few lines, it'll just complete the rest for you. So I think ordinary people, pretty much everybody, should start playing around with coding a little bit. Doesn't mean you're going to become a software engineer or learn everything about software, but you have the tool now to be able to create a lot of code in English and to help you understand it. And if you know how to use code and give your computer complicated instructions and it'll just execute them exactly the way you want, it can be powerful no matter what field you're in.
Okay, thank you. Roger, did you have something to say? Otherwise, we're going to switch topics.
I just want to add that it makes you such a patient person. So your solving problem skills go into other areas that are not programming. Personally, I became faster at many things, not everything, but yeah, pretty. It's pretty true what he
I
said.
got you. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, obviously, everything is an investment of time, right? The question I'm really asking is this worth allocating time from something else I'm doing into this? And, okay. Robert, you want to talk about free versus paid versions of these chatbots?
Yeah, and I followed my own advice. I asked ChatGPT. Let me see what I asked. I said, "What are the differences between the various AIs like Google, Gemini, Anthropic, Claude, Perplexity, and you, ChatGPT?" And it lays it out, right? It says, "Hey, Gemini is from Google. It says capabilities is expected to excel in areas like search, natural language understanding, and contextually rich interactions." Okay, what does that all mean? It's better integrated with Google stuff. And that's how you're going to come at these major AIs. Perplexity is better for research because it shows you where it learned all this stuff from when it answers a question. ChatGPT is better for probably for talking to it. The capabilities of talking to ChatGPT on the iPhone or an Android phone are using OpenAI's Whisper API, which is way better than I've experienced on other systems. But all of that can change tomorrow, right? Somebody like Anthropic could come out with a new version of their thing and blow away at the market. So you have to sort of be flexible and try different things and see which one gives you the best answer for the thing you're trying to do.
I hear what you're saying, and for example, when I have a question about YouTube, I go to Gemini, because you're so right. It's much better integrated into other Google services than others. When I have a question about an Elon post, for example, I'll go to Grok. So I guess you may turn out to be that we're going to have multiple AIs like this. We're going to have multiple. Maybe I'll just keep multiple of them, even though if you look at the top, the answer is very similar to each other, all four of them in that specific instance.
And this is why I follow so many people, both in AI research, but also AI artists, because the AI artists put what tools they're using, often they do. Like if they share a video, they'll put what tools they use. And it's usually 4 or 5 different tools that they're using to make the video that you're seeing. And so you start learning what are the popular tools that people are using, and you focus a weekend on learning one of those, right? And then the next weekend you learn another one, and then the next week you learn another one, and in a month and a half you're pretty advanced, right?
Okay, Michelle.
Yeah, you're right, Robert. There's these like chains you can try and set up in your workflow. I wanted to say earlier, somebody was saying about coding and Claude, it's able to do this plugin, host the code. When you pay for ChatGPT, you do have the ability to run in a very temporary instance the Python code or whatever code you're asking it to create. But as soon as you idle for more than 10 minutes, 15 minutes, your session kind of is thrown away. So it's fun for prototyping or like if you're doing this little calculator project, it works. But then if you come back to the conversation, you close the tab or you come back the next day, it's confused because the instance was thrown away, like the virtual machine that it ran into got deleted. But it has that ability only when you have the paid version of ChatGPT to kind of host and run the code in a machine. And it's fun for prototyping, but it disappears. So that's not something you can plug into production.
All right, let's switch
One other
gears.
thing I like doing, Yaman.
Yeah, go ahead.
One brief one. If I see a post here on x.com that I don't understand, like from a scientist or something like that, copy the post, give it to ChatGPT and say, please explain this in, like if I'm 9 years old or something like that. Or just please explain this post. And it will. And it does a really good job.
Yep. All right. Omar, how you doing over there?
Doing good. Also, you can just highlight the text on the web version and click Ask Grok if you want to
Yeah.
ask Grok. These days Grok is going to give you an answer that's just as good as ChatGPT's answer. So if I don't want to switch to a different app, I'll just go in there for something trivial. I do still use ChatGPT a lot, but I think Grok 2 is significantly better. Grok 3 is going to be even
When is
better
that
than
coming?
that. I think before the end of the year.
So what do you expect from Grok 3? That's my next question, actually. So that's a good segue. We know it's going to be multimodal, right?
Yeah, Omni model, take in images, video, audio, text, all natively in one model. So you should be able to speak to it. It'll be able to have kind of a voice, and it'll be significantly more intelligent and powerful than the current model. And They're actually training that right now.
So, but ChatGPT already does that, correct? GPT 4.0.
Yeah, kind of. Not really. Their advanced voice assistant is in a preview. So they do have the GPT 4.0 model released. That's an Omni model, but you can really only talk to it with text. You can send it images. You can't send it any videos yet, and the live audio is in kind of a beta with a select group of people. So they haven't fully launched it to everybody. Google also has Gemini Live, which is kind of the voice assistant feature for their Omni model. And I think they've started rolling that out to some Android users, but I'm an iOS user and it says it's still going to be a few more weeks before it's available in the iOS app.
Okay. Thank you. Mind branches.
One of the big differences that I experience with the different paid versus unpaid models is the limits of the context window. And so, for people that don't know what that is, that's how much information I can put into a prompt and how much information I'll get into an output. And I'm more interested in how much I can dump into the model because I find the more context I can give a model, the better my response is. So something like paid GPT 4.0, I can dump in a research paper that's 50 pages long as a PDF, and I can ask it questions about that paper. I can have it summarize that paper, and I know that it's fitting that whole paper within its context window. So it's giving me very accurate answers based on what it sees there. There's some really long context things. So one of the things I've done in the past is summarize like very long YouTube videos. I actually summarize Lex and Elon's 8-hour YouTube talk. And there was a tool I found that transcribed the whole thing very quickly, which astonished me that it was able to do that. I pasted all of that text. I forget how it was, over 100,000 tokens into Gemini because you need access to, I think, a pre-release. There's like a developer version of it that's a preview, but it has a huge context window. So I could paste all of that into there and ask for a summary, and it accurately goes through the whole thing and gives a really good output. So the context window is something to pay attention to when kind of switching between these paid versus free models, and then even between different models. I think Gemini has the biggest. I think they go up to like 2 million tokens as a context window at this point. But that becomes really valuable when you want accuracy in your responses and you have information to feed it to reference when you're asking it a question.
Thank you. Mind branches, is this your first time in AI amateurs?
It is. Am I talking too long?
No, it's fine. How did you find out about it?
I saw it up on top of my feed. That's what I love about X. It's just great to connect with other people in the space. I just jumped in, saw some familiar faces, and was happy to be able to jump in. I requested to speak, wasn't sure if I'd be able to, and it's cool to be able to share some insights. And I think for amateurs and for people that are getting started with this, I love the title. I think that there's so many people out, like, I feel like an amateur still, even though I've been obsessively using these things for the past year and a half. I'm learning new things every day. So it's fun to be able to share the things I'm learning and to hear from some other people and learn from them. So happy to be here.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I love that attitude. Yoda.
Yeah, I got a question for Omar. What is the equivalent of short and long or small and large context window in the context of, let's say, Tesla vehicle inferencing driving? Maybe you can use an extreme example of like a case where the inference is happening without context window versus, let's say, in the millions in terms of the size.
Well, the context window would be like the amount of history that you're putting in. So, as you know, FSD takes in video input. So, what does video mean? Video is a series of images. So, images over time. So 30 images per second. Now, you might pass in, for example, 10 seconds of input into FSD or 30 seconds or a minute of video input before it makes its decision about how to drive. But text and driving are a little bit different. In driving, the signals that you need to make the decision are heavily concentrated in the most recent frames. So maybe some of the most recent frames, maybe a few seconds back, you need to, for example, see a traffic light that's currently being obstructed, or you need to see a left turn arrow that you ended up driving over, or something like that. So you do need a little bit of history, but it's very much concentrated in the stuff that's happening now. Whereas if I'm asking you a complex text prompt, you may have to really look all across that prompt. So the context window is more important for LLMs and the kind of tasks they do compared to FSD, where we don't really talk about it too much.
Thank you. Ruben?
Yeah, I had a question for Mind Branches here. One thing that I've been doing recently, because I've been struggling with some of the context window limitations myself, my sort of go-to for work recently, particularly like speculative work, is Claude Sonnet 3.5. And I'll hit the daily cap most days. And so one thing that I've been trying is I'll get the instance to go across the entire conversation and create what I'm calling a context essence capture, where it sort of summarizes the content and the nature of the conversation, but also the interlocutor profile, right? The what it thinks and what it's learned about me, and any sort of adaptive communication styles that it might have picked up, and tries to sort of parse them in a way that can sort of get down to like a paragraph or so. Then I'll take that entire paragraph, start a new instance, and use that paragraph as the prompt, with the hope that we can sort of keep the guts of what we're talking about, without dragging along 200k context windows every time I say thanks, right? And I'm wondering if you've looked at not just seeking larger context window inputs as you sort of seek larger and larger content ingestion functions. But I've also, but whether you've looked at taking whatever content that you're looking to parse and trying to compress that into sort of more semantically dense kernels, if you will.
Okay. All right. Is that your question?
Yep.
All right. Mind Branches?
Yeah, that is a great point, and it's a great strategy as well. Yes, I've been doing that, using a lot of times if I'm having a very long conversation in a chat window, at some point I'll just ask it to summarize that conversation to the current point, knowing that that summary now will stay in the context window moving forward. It's realizing that there's a limit to how far back it's going to remember in a conversation. Using that as a way to refresh the conversation to make sure it stays on target is a great way to do it. For some of these other things, it's just too much info. So I do a lot of research paper summaries, and I need a big context window to be able to do that because I need to feed the whole research paper into it. If I'm looking at comparing multiple research papers, things like that, I got to feed them in. If I am going after a certain idea or a concept, after I feed all of those things in, get a summary, I can then move that summary, into a new chat window, or, just start from there, and know that it's got at least a base level of understanding of the context. Another thing to keep an eye on that Anthropic and Claude are offering, it's called context caching, and you need to use a little bit more. I think you need to go through the API to get it to work. But basically, what it does is it stores these large volumes of context. I picture it as like a zip file. It kind of just zips it down so it's only using a small amount of tokens, even though it's referencing a huge amount of context. So if someone's building an app or a tool with Claude or Anthropic's tools, they can use that to really save a ton of money on the tokens, because that's usually what you're charged for when using these models, if you're not using just a kind of off the shelf paid version, if you're building your own model or tool or iteration and doing an API call to get the answers, you're paying per token. This is going to save people a lot of money and really drive the cost of the intelligence down a lot because you can use this context caching. So that's another strategy. But yeah, I'm just a fan of being able to dump a lot of info in and get the response that I'm looking for quickly. So I usually just try to find the model that'll have enough of a context window for me to do that for whatever I'm going after.
Okay, thank you. I see two hands. Let's go to Michelle, then Yoda.
So a little bit of like surfing with the context window limitation thing is merged with something I was already using with LLMs for a long time, which is really like beyond, like we're still AI amateurs here, but once I give my second class and third class to the people that I've trained AI with, I get like, oh, let's get serious now. You open two ChatGPT windows. One of them is the teacher, and the other one is the student. And then regarding this, like trying to compress a large number of token, well, the left conversation could be where I paste a large amount of text and I ask it to give a certain amount of size text out of it, and then I'll feed that into the secondary conversation. So it's really trying to, if you're on a computer, get comfortable at having two conversations side by side, and these two conversations fulfill two different roles, and one of them feeds the other one.
Yoda?
Question for mind branches. From a technical perspective, do you see a path whereby instead of Tesla licensing FSD, which is the final kind of end product, for Tesla to technically license just the video data to some of the large AI players with the compute necessary, the OpenAIs, the Anthropics of the world, to create their version of the self-driving model. Potentially, they're doing this in partnership with a legacy automaker.
I don't know a ton about this, and I'm thinking Robert might be able to have better insights on it, but I do know that they are building a large warehouse with a ton of servers with a ton of GPUs, and that's what you need to run training runs, and you need electricity to do that, and all of those things. I know Elon's working on, but Robert, I don't know if you have more insights into that space as far as Tesla being able to do bigger training runs on their data.
They're building a lot of capability. You nailed it. You need hundreds of thousands of NVIDIA cards to build a model. Now, to run the model, it's running in your car, but to build the model that runs in your car, you need a lot of compute and a lot of data. And Tesla has the most of both in the business.
Okay. So the answer to Yoda's question is basically no. Right? In short. Mario.
I just wanted to ask Robert about Unitree. What do you know about what the robot is capable of besides the physical movement? So, is it taking verbal instructions? What can it do at this point? Do you know?
Nothing. I know what its competitor. I just visited 1x.tech, which is a humanoid robot company, and I've visited K-Scale, which is a separate Y Combinator robot company. And these do respond to your voice and to your gesture. So if you point at a table that has a spill on it and say, "Hey, can you please clean this up?" It knows what you're talking about. And I would expect the Chinese to have the same kind of models and the same kind of thinking behind them. But when is it going to be in our house? If you're a billionaire, next year. If you're not a billionaire, 3 or 4 more years.
Sounds about right.
Okay. Hey, Robert, that actually reminds me, since you're willing to make these forecasts, I should have you on my YouTube channel for a one-on-one interview. I had so far Dirty Tesla and Omar, episode 2. And I would love to have you on there too and kind of go through, FSD, Optimus, etc. Do like a little chat.
That'd be fun.
Okay, cool. Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Got a lot of old history.
Yeah, I'm down. All right, we're just going to go through the speakers and go. I named this series Deeper Conversations. So, all right. So maybe I'll pick a project and say, teach me Python, work on that project in the meantime.
Or do you want to learn a language? You don't need to learn how to program right away. There's other things to learn. AI is really a badass learning technology. It teaches you things.
Okay. So what's my step 1 then?
Start asking ChatGPT. I'd like to learn how to run a marathon in 2 years, or I'd like to learn how to speak Spanish. I'm going to Spain in 4 weeks, and I need a crash course so I can go in there and order coffee and go to a nightclub or something like that, right? Just talk to it like that. It'll help you out. It'll help you get started.
I mean, I guess like that's the part that I don't quite understand right now. So maybe Omar, like I can say, so Robert says, just let's take the marathon example. Teach me how to, I want to be able to run a marathon in 2 years, right? Until the AI tells me that you need to learn Python for this, why do I need to learn Python?
Because,
I mean,
Hold on, Omar. Yeah.
Python's just a tool that is kind of like Photoshop. It just executes instructions that you write down. So you could use Python for a lot of different things. It's a tool like Word or Excel.
But why do I learn the Python to run a marathon?
Well, you probably wouldn't learn Python to run a marathon.
Right?
Python's a programming language.
Okay. So what would be an example of a question during, like, to solve that question, I would have to learn Python.
Well, I mean, that's the point about AI is you don't really have to learn anything. You
That's
could
what I'm
say,
saying.
for example, hey, I need a program that can take in my transactions and calculate how much tax I owe based on this formula. Can you do that? And it'll say, great, here's a program, passing your transaction records in a comma separated format, and it'll give you the answer. So, you can basically use it to get the computer to do whatever you want it to do. Post a tweet at a certain time, something like that.
Yeah. And I guess in the marathon example, it would be something like, I need an app to work on my obscure device that tracks my training. And Nike Plus just doesn't do it for that obscure device. So maybe for that, I would have to use Python, right?
Yeah, maybe you could say, okay, I've recorded all my training data. Can you look at this and calculate how I'm improving over time, what my score is, what time you think I'm going to get in the marathon, something like that. I mean, they've got a code interpreter built into ChatGPT, so it can actually generate code and run it and give you the answer all without you ever having to even see the Python code, unless you click the little drop down to look at it.
Okay. Michelle?
Well, that was precisely my point. My intention of learning Python and through this whole thing was more that I'm able to audit, because if I'm asking AI to do something that requires Python to do so, and I mean the most concrete example I have when people are diving into AI in general is when somebody says, "Oh, I think you need to use the API for this." and I'm go like, oh well, all right, that's it. I gotta learn a code because now that's what got me into it. Beyond my calculator thing was making API calls. So if you're trying to achieve something that requires code, of course you can have AI generate the code and then blindly copy paste it and then run it. But I like AI generated code because it has lots of comments, and especially if you ask AI to annotate the code with lots of comments that explains what the code does, I can basically read Python and audit what it created. And I got good at a beginner level still, but I'm able to pick up on something before even running the code the AI generated, and come back to the AI and say, wait, well, you're doing it this way. Is it that going to be a problem later? And the AI goes like, oh yeah, well, of course, let's change strategy, and it uses a different strategy to store data or whatever I'm trying to achieve later down the line. But I noticed it because I'm kind of able to read the code and understand what it does.
Okay, thank you. Mind branches.
One of my favorite things about AI is not needing to know how to code to be able to get a ton of value out of it. So for a question like that, I picture myself standing in like the world's largest library, and I have this robot librarian standing next to me that I can ask any question to, and it can run off and grab books on that topic, and it can come back with a summary of information that's going to be super useful for whatever I'm trying to do. So for that example, I would suggest that a process I use, I call it chain of thought leaders. I first would ask for what are the top 10 books ever written on running a marathon? Give me those books and give me the 5 most important points from each of those books, and ChatGPT will return a list. And then I can dive in, or I can have it summarize kind of the combination of all of those inputs and end up with some really good advice from ChatGPT that if I just prompted, hey, ChatGPT, how do I run a marathon? It would give me a completely different answer. So I need to tell that robot librarian what to do. I have to give it direction. I have to tell it what books to look for, what kind of information to try to find, and then it'll go find it. And then I can ask more follow-up questions and get better outputs. So that's the way I would approach that type of question.
Okay, thank you. Roger?
I'll give 2 tips. First, you can ask ChatGPT, for example, if you're studying philosophy or programming or art, whatever, and you have zero knowledge, you're a complete beginner. What you can do is explain this concept to me as if you were explaining it to an 8-year-old. Sorry, my English. So, like the basics, I think AI does an excellent job for anything. Um, and the second one is that choose somebody that you admire and tell ChatGPT to act like that person. Sometimes it works.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go to Sharon, but before that, if you're on YouTube, please let me know in the live chat how the audio quality is. Thank you. Sharon.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for allowing me to come up. I just wanted to speak to the coding part because I'm learning to code at the moment, and I do find that we need it. Let's say, at least for this moment, there will probably be tools in the future that will help us with that, but you need a general concept. You need to understand. So we're building tools at the moment, and I don't think that we would get far if we had absolutely no experience. We have a developer that is helping us and guiding us along the way. We need to ask the right questions. And if you don't know the right question, you probably won't get the right answer. I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Gotcha. Thank you. Omar, do you agree with that? That learning how to code would allow asking better questions?
Yeah, it's good to understand how a computer works, what it actually does. So, with LLMs making coding more accessible, before it was a huge time investment. So it wasn't really something an average person was going to do. You got to really dedicate yourself to it. But today, it's something that an average person can use just like they use Microsoft Word or Excel. And it makes your computer a whole lot more powerful.
If you were learning coding from zero today, how would you go about it?
Well, I would start with a HTML maybe. HTML isn't really even code. It's just a markup language. So you can just type, for example, like hello, and then it's on a web page. So that's kind of like a good place to start because then you can create something you can see without introducing a lot of more complex concepts like, variables and things like that. Then maybe start playing around with JavaScript, add a few buttons, and you click the button and a pop-up pops up, and you know, you can edit properties of the elements. So like the web would probably be a pretty good place to start. Once you can make simple web pages, I would then start learning more actual programming languages. Like, for example, um, I would recommend Ruby or Python as great programming languages to start with. They're very high level, they're very expressive, as opposed to more level languages like C++ plus plus that really care about where you put your semicolons, and, you know, like one little character off can, completely mess you up. So maybe start with a higher level language like Ruby or Python, or JavaScript. I mean, JavaScript's a really weird language though. So Ruby or Python probably be a good place to start. And yeah, then you can build little simple websites and scripts that run on your computer.
Okay. I mean, maybe I can just build that TSLA Live website.
Yeah, absolutely. You could. You could just have ChatGPT help you write some of the code and just put it on the website and design whatever you wanted.
Okay, cool. Why ChatGPT?
Um, I just use ChatGPT. I use a little bit of Grok, but it's just got a good app. It's got a built-in Mac app. It's the standard, right? And it works.
Mhm.
And it's reliable, and they are investing a ton of money in it. So,
Okay.
they're all kind of the same, so it doesn't really matter. You can pick whatever one you want, but I use ChatGPT maybe out of momentum than anything else.
Gotcha. Sharon, Mario, Robert.
I just wanted to add to, because I am a beginner. So what I do, I just come up with an idea with whatever program I want to build, and then I just ask the LLM and have it guide me, and then break stuff and try to fix it. That's basically how it goes. So if you have an idea, just throw it into an LLM and then just have it give you code and then see if it breaks, and then you have to figure things out. So just learning by doing, you are going to accelerate the process. Come up with an idea, a easy, like, I want to do a audio visualizing tool, and then I just throw that idea into it, and then I have it build. So most of the developers are using Claude Sonnet at the moment, 3.5, because it's the most the data cutoff, right? It's the most recent one, and it's doing a very, very good job with code. But GPT is also great, but most of the developers are using Claude at the moment because of the cutoff date, I guess.
Okay, thank you.
But it's
Omar?
also interesting that there's been a lot of conversation about sort of some of these models getting dumber. Like we've certainly heard it with ChatGPT and some of the different models, and some people have been saying it about Claude. And it kind of reminds me about some of the discussion with FSD where it can be so subjective, and people sometimes feel like, oh, is it getting better? Is it getting worse? But a lot of times when you have these very large models, the company will want to optimize them over time. They want to make them more performant, lower the inference cost, and that can kind of make them dumber. They also talk about them sort of getting lazier sometimes. So it's a very challenging thing, not just to continue to train these models, but actually to make sure that they maintain their quality and they don't regress as you continue to update them.
Mario, then Robert.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you said is like super key. Like, unless you're motivated, some people are motivated to learn programming just because they love it. Like, people love playing chess or something. But if it's not just that, then you definitely need a project to keep you motivated. And I would say definitely check out things like N8N and If This, Then That, um, which are automation tools. So you can get a lot done with these simple automation tools without having to learn a whole lot of programming. Like Robert mentioned before, maybe you want to send a text message using Twilio. Those are great places to start there.
Thank you, Robert.
I actually just asked ChatGPT, can you teach me how to program? And I explained where I was. You know, I have advanced knowledge of computers, but I'm totally new to programming, especially interested. And I told it what I'm interested in building. And then I said, my friend says I should learn Python. Do you agree? And it says, yes, I agree that Python is an excellent choice. And it goes on at length, telling you how to set up the environment, what basics to learn, how to get into object-oriented programming. It sort of lays out a whole study plan for you. Then I said, my friend learned Blender by building a donut. What project would you recommend starting with? And it says, oh, starting with a project similar in scope to the Blender donut for Python and AI could be a great way to get hands-on experience while keeping things manageable. And it recommends a whole project. Here's a project idea that's both beginner friendly and relevant to your interests in AI-driven applications. And it tells you how to do it step by step.
Thank you. Roger.
A quick analogy I can make to those that want to learn programming is like there's going to be a lot of pain for sure. Make sure to take some breaks because you can get burned out pretty fast. There's too many concepts to learn, there's too much information, but thanks to AI, I think you can make it a fun journey. And my other advice is to join a community, maybe on Discord or somewhere, YouTube community.
We are in a community. This is the community.
There you go.
All right.
Yeah,
Mind branches.
that's nice.
I want to chime in. The cool thing about ChatGPT that I've found for anything that I'm doing on a computer is I can share my screen, I can do a screen capture, and I can ask it for what to do next. So if I ever get stuck, I can always just share an image of my screen and it'll guide me to the next step. So it becomes super empowering. I don't have to go sorting through GitHub repositories or forums to try to find the answer. I can just say, here's the picture. What do I do here? Why isn't this working? And it'll try to figure it out. And like Sharon said, a lot of it's troubleshooting. And it used to be if something didn't work, I'd get really frustrated because it was like back to the drawing board. I've got to do a lot of work. Now it's just, I just get used to it not working as part of the process. Like it's not going to work until it does. And once I kind of accept that, it just becomes I'm sharing info back and forth with ChatGPT, iterating, and then just trusting that eventually it'll work out. And then all that's involved is that I stick with it. So I think that's the key is just start with an idea and stick with it until you have something that works and, trust the process that you'll get there. It might take you a little longer if you're new to it, but with these tools, they will get you there.
Okay. Danny, then Omar.
For relatively small projects like sending an SMS with Twilio, ChatGPT is probably going to be successful at this with just a couple of prompts. The rest will be troubleshooting, just creating an account on Twilio, getting the API keys. If you want your own domain, setting DigitalOcean, Cloudflare, connecting the domain, setting up the server. And I think all these are really useful because AI is going to take over like specific front-end code, back-end code now. But the guy or the girl who's a doer and can connect all of the code, that's not like for years. I think AI is not going to replace this.
Okay, Danny, are you on a what are you using to access this space right now?
My
iPhone?
desktop and
Desktop. Okay.
Desktop MacBook and AirPods Pro 2nd generation, the best of Apple.
Okay. What is your desktop? What year is it?
M1 Pro 2021.
Yeah. I think you're having the same glitching problem I was having, but that's a Pro, so that's interesting. Do you have other things running?
I think it's nothing. I think it's the web, like web Twitter. If I go on the phone, I think it's better.
Yeah. Your CPU is overwhelmed. I can come over and put some thermal pads on your computer if you want. because I know
Yeah,
how
my
to do that
computer.
now. Yes.
I charge
Yeah, I think
$200 for this. Yeah,
Yeah,
minimum.
exactly. I was actually thinking, I got this whole toolbox now, you know? I can like all the screwdrivers and everything. I'm like gonna go around and fixing people's computers. Anyway, Omar.
Yeah. I mean, you can think about programming just as imagine you have somebody who you can write a to-do list, write a list of instructions, and it will execute and do those things in order, literally exactly as you say. And they were talking about Twilio and other APIs. So the APIs are also really key. Think about an API like an app. Just like your phone has all these different apps, an API is an app that a computer can use. So, for example, the Twilio service allows you to use the phone network. So I can buy a phone number and then I can write a line of code that says send a text message or receive a text message and then execute this code when the text message comes in. So let's say, for example, I've got a fleet of Teslas for my pizza delivery company, and I can write a piece of code that says run every 5 minutes, check the battery status of every Tesla by going out to Tesla's API, get a list of all my Teslas and what their battery status is. And if any, you know, car is less than 20% battery, then text the employee that's currently on duty. You can find their phone number here and say, hey, this car needs to be charged or whatever. And you can just come up with, whatever sort of services you want to do. You could write a script that says, okay, every time I record a video of the space and I put the video into this folder, I want you to automatically upload it to YouTube, generate a transcript, summarize the conversation, write a description, and automatically upload this and just do whatever you want. So a lot of people kind of make it out to be super challenging. Certainly it is really technical, but you can think about it just as allowing your computer to automatically use these apps and services and connect them together.
Danny.
I'm on iPhone now, iPhone 13 Pro. Is it any better?
Yeah, it's fine, man. I was just kind of happy that I'm
No,
able
but
to
I just want to
identify and
test. I am still on the AirPods, but I went from desktop to iPhone. So just to test if it's better.
yeah, you're fine. You're fine. Cool. All right. Well, I mean, we're coming up to an hour and 40 minutes. Let's see. We have some new requests to speak. Michelle?
I'm hopeful for the September 10 iPhone event coming up. Been using the iOS 18 developer beta all summer. It was really glitchy. Now, anyone that's brave enough, I'm not recommending this, but if you have a secondary phone or something, and be careful, sometimes there are even like security updates issues with the beta versions, but you can press the settings on your phone to try the iOS 18 beta. It does not have the ChatGPT integration yet, but I work a lot with accessibility features, and it's doing lots of cool stuff. AI powered on the iPhone 15 stuff to read the screen, and I trained my own voice model even, so I'm able to type and it speaks in my voice what I just typed in some sort of robotic voice, but lots of cool AI powered iOS stuff that they're gonna announce or actually deliver at that event. I'm pretty sure. And we got Robert here, so I'm sure he has about 5 minutes of content to reply to this.
There won't be a Vision Pro, I hear. The next Vision Pro comes next Christmas. But yeah, you're right. The newer phones, the newer computers, whether they're from Apple or from competitors, are adding new AI inferencing pieces of the chip. In Apple's case, 21% of your M1 or M4 processor is for AI inferencing. And so far in my house, I very rarely use that part of the chip, and I'm an AI influencer. Yeah, next year's going to be fun. We're going to see a lot of new things, a lot of new applications, all that rely on AI inferencing. So having a modern phone is going to matter if you're in the AI space trying to use the newest stuff.
Good, thank you. Danny.
So let's say a programmer was just giving you HTML code, JavaScript. It's easy to replace that person today, but the programmer who was doing a lot of architectural work in a project, deploying to servers, updating servers, cron job, DNS setting up, all that stuff that goes around the coding, that's even more work because AI didn't really solve that. When do you think AI can do that for you? I assume it would need to connect, like you would connect your DigitalOcean or AWS to ChatGPT, and then you tell it what to do. But when?
I was just talking to an entrepreneur today who's building a system that reduces error rates in these large language model systems. And she claimed that many of her enterprise customers are saying AI is not accurate enough yet to really get used across the board in a huge company. Too much risk. The lawyers are holding back projects. But she has a system that refine tunes the model in a new way and greatly reduces the errors. So there are a lot of, and she's not alone. There's a group of companies and a lot of engineering going on in all the companies to try to reduce the error rates because they know, if you get a wrong answer, you're not very happy with OpenAI or Google or whoever.
Okay, team foil.
Yes, I believe that there's a number of ways to call APIs to other than Twilio to take action. I mean, they were literally called actions in ChatGPT, and we haven't really dug in this conversation. I've been listening for a bit into it too deeply, but what that really means is that any agent running on any system with any model, whether or not you're running a wrapper, if you have the API calls inside of that JSON, then you should be able to execute a function call effectively. And some models do support those kind of calls, some don't. So anyway, the thoughts on that, I'd love to hear input on that.
You bring up a great point. I'm just trying to learn about the company so that I have the vocabulary to talk to a future AI. That's why I created here on X on my profile, I've created a list of 5,400 AI companies, and I've split them out into like medical versus holodeck, which is for creative people, like all the AI art stuff is in that folder, right? And by going through that, you learn what the bleeding edge of entrepreneurs are thinking about and trying to do with a company. And you can start thinking, oh, I want to use that in the future, right?
Yeah, it's very true. And the opportunities are they're expanding, and then you can actually use Sharon and others have mentioned the ability to consult with the AI. I mean, Mario was also talking about that too. Just you can inform yourself not only on the technical aspects or what steps, but it's also getting some of the code blocks, like fully functional code blocks, are capable of being generated right now definitely out of Claude 3.5. Turbo GPT will run you in circles. Be careful with that. Like it's like there's certain models that will literally run you in circles without getting you to an end destination or giving you accurate steps to execute the task that you're trying to achieve. So that's something to be aware of that I've discovered in the last few weeks.
Thank you. Mind branches and then Danny.
Just want to share a simple example and where I think the future might be heading as a result. For setting up a custom email domain, there's a number of steps in the process. I forgot what they all were. So I asked ChatGPT for a step-by-step process of how to set this up. It told me what companies it recommended to use. It told me how to set everything up on the back end, all the different things I was going to need to click into. And I went through it. And if I hit an area where I was thinking for more than 2 seconds, I would just take a picture of my screen and share it, and it would tell me what the next step was. So I kind of was acting like a cyborg. I'm the human in the loop there using this tool, but I'm really just working for ChatGPT at that point, just doing whatever task it needs me to do to move on to the next step. So it's not a far stretch that these tools with their vision capabilities are going to be able to interact with any application that a human can interact with through a graphic user interface. So through what we're looking at to be able to complete tasks. I think the limitations are in place now for ChatGPT on the system prompt side, where it won't let itself create tasks that it can then create more tasks and create more tasks. So I think they're limiting the agent capabilities that it already probably has. But I also think that the next iteration is going to start introducing more of those agentic workflows that you can just point it in a direction and have it go. But again, you have to be careful of the risks. And when you start looking at setting up things with bank accounts and passwords and security and all of that stuff, so there's a lot to consider there, which is why I think they've been so frequently posting blogs on safety and security recently. I think their next model, they're kind of seeding the ground to reduce some of the concerns as they release them.
By the way, Yaman, it would be interesting to have a future show on keeping your shit private in the AI world, because any beginner is going to need to know what can an LLM do. And I have my psychiatrist is using it in our therapy sessions to listen to us, and it does amazing things there. So we should talk about how much it can figure out about you in a very short period of time. And then how do you protect your intellectual property or your privacy? And running models on your phone or on your glasses eventually is going to be key. And of course, we're all going to forget all that and give it all to GPT.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great idea. And I really like how this AI amateurs space is shaping up. This conversation, again, is, I think, mind-blowing to me that so many people show up to discuss these topics on a short notice. And every Monday, AI amateurs will start 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Pacific. And I want to give a shout out to our sponsors as well. First sponsor, Pay More. If you have any old cell phones, MacBooks, iPhones lying around, you can go to Pay More to have them. They basically pay more cash for your old electronics. You can visit one of their stores. They have 100 stores, and they're going global soon as well. And they believe in recycling these things. So their motto is, Paymer believes the best technology doesn't have to come at the cost of your planet or your wallet, of our planet or your wallet. And then the second is Joa. Joa sponsors a number of people in the Tesla community. And we all know about them, and I really appreciate both of our sponsors for making this space and TSLA Live in the mornings possible. Let's go to Mario.
I just want to use the wisdom of crowds here. Maybe some of the more expert guys on AI. We're currently using Metabase to get visualizations out of a MySQL database. Does anybody know a similar product that's utilizing AI, or maybe a plugin to Metabase using AI?
Michelle?
I don't, but I have a list of 700 developer tools that you can look through, and there's a couple that get close, I think.
Thanks,
If
Robert.
if you send that to me in a prompt, I can do some stuff with it and give you a report.
Thanks, Tim. And Robert,
Michelle?
do you wear the goggles in your therapy sessions?
Come on.
I film videos in them, actually, not of her.
Michelle?
My point, I wanted to echo from what Robert said about privacy. It's important that some, if not most, of the free AIs, you understand that it's similar to you typing it in a search engine.
as much as even more. Like Gemini is explicitly saying that even human reviewer will be able to look at the transcript of your chat, especially if you send feedback that the result was not great. Of course, they can't read all the chats, but you have to act as if somebody else is going to read it. Are you comfortable with that or not? And especially if you're not paying for the model, there are definitely using your interactions with the AI to somehow use it as training data. I remember a long time ago, as ChatGPT came out, I was trying to make it do tech support because that's mostly what I do. And I was struggling trying to help ChatGPT figure out my problem. And it was like, wait, am I working for them or is it working for me? It was this duality of like, you have to understand that you're giving away valuable data back to the AI that's going to train their next model. And you have to be comfortable with that. And once you get into paid use of some of these tools, you RTFM read the terms and conditions, and if you're using it in a business with business partners or with an employer, their legal department and everything needs to understand what's implied in these terms and conditions of the tool you're using, especially if you're putting work stuff into it. That's a big part of what we're difficult like we're working on with great difficulty right now. We don't want to go and cut ChatGPT out of a organization, but we want to monitor what's being put into it and in trying to train employees at doing the right thing with sensitive data.
To loop back to API Yaman, the data policy is different for the two doors into OpenAI, right? If you're coming in from the iPhone app, you're coming in from the retail door, and they are pretty open. They're going to use your data in future models, and or some of your data might leak out, and not much you can do about it. The API door is the door that software developers open up. That's how software talks to other pieces of software, is a application programming interface API. And through that door, they claim they are not training on any data that comes through that door.
Okay, thank you. Mind branches.
Just wanted to share a few security options available in the off-the-shelf GPT. So ChatGPT on the paid version, you have 3 different options to add a layer of privacy. The first is you can turn off the option for it to train on your chats and your chat history. So that's in your settings. You can turn that off. The second option is you can turn off memory. So it won't automatically start remembering things about you from your conversations. So you can turn that feature off as well. And then the third is to open up a temporary chat, they call it. So this serves a similar purpose to like an incognito or private browsing session. So at the top where you would select your model, you can pick temporary chat. And what that's going to do is just not store any of the chat history, your inputs or its outputs. That said, there's still, if you read the terms and conditions, they have the ability to store your chats for review just to avoid people using it for nefarious purposes. But that is a pretty, they have pretty solid privacy there if you have those 3 settings turned on. On the enterprise side, you really want to look through a vendor. So if you have like Microsoft, you can go through the Azure platform. If you have a business associates agreement with them already, you can build a back-end access through the API that's going to be very secure. They offer very high levels of security through the API. So check that out for companies. So I'm sure like the company Robert was using to record or that the therapist was using to record the session was probably a HIPAA compliant solution.
Yes.
Which that has a very, robust security requirement. So
yeah, the first component he put in the system, it removes any personally identifiable information, which is sort of funny in my case because ChatGPT read my blog for decades and ingested it all to build the model. So I'm sort of built into the model itself. So what the fuck do I need HIPAA for? It already knows all my bad behavior.
And that's such a good point, because the real challenge becomes when we have to sacrifice privacy for convenience, and that's a lot of times what the decision becomes. Is if you give up privacy, they become a lot easier to use, but then you have to be aware of the potential consequences of that.
Here's what I do with my friends on Friday night. Right, we're having a good discussion, sort of like we are right now. I say, hey, can I turn on ChatGPT? And of course they do, because they know who I am. And I turn it on for a couple minutes, it listens to us, and then it gets involved. It's very addicting and it's very useful. And if you're trying to speak to somebody who you don't speak their language to, it's fucking amazing. Right? This new voice feature that's coming out to everybody this soon. So you're going to give it all your data. You're going to tell it everything.
Okay.
You're going to talk to it about everything, right? That's what Elon Musk is talking about, the everything app.
Yeah. I mean, my branches, so you listed these 3 security measures, but if I, for example, turn off memory, am I not reducing AI's ability to get to know me and then help me better? Like, don't I want AI to get to know me better?
Yeah, so just to explain memory, I like to think of it as a floating context window that follows you between chats. I rarely use it. So instead, what I do, based on specifics of what I'm going to do, I'll store like a bunch of information of myself in a notepad. And if I need it to know that information, I'll just share it in the chat that I'm using. I'll say, here's some background on me for context. Rather, because when I switch between what I'm doing, I don't necessarily need ChatGPT to know that I'm an AI consultant or whatever the case may be, depending on the task. Memory's convenient, but I think it's more built for people that aren't, willing to kind of work with it under the hood a little bit more. So it's a feature that I think.
I mean, but even if you work under the hood, it's still not going to be 100% similar, and you may miss something. Maybe with the AI you're dealing. Hold on. So maybe with the AI you're dealing with today, you may have that kind of workaround, but maybe next version you won't be able to do that. And if you had interacted with AI, like without these concerns, without these limitations, guardrails, maybe your experience in the future would be much better.
So you can actually go and see what is in ChatGPT's stored memory. So if you go into your settings and click the privacy settings and click memory, you can see the little prompt that it's developed over time after talking with you. And that's a prompt that it will adjust as it updates its memory. And if you look at it, you'll see there's nothing really fancy to it. Like, the model's not like training to become a different customized model for you. It's just building this little pre-system prompt that it's sending out before you put your prompt in. And it's a good thing to check out just to see, because for some people it might be very useful. For others, they're going to look at that and say, "Oh, there's stuff in there from a chat that I didn't even need."
Let me go to Michelle, because Michelle has his hands up. Robert.
So, as a smaller step than going from like the paid ChatGPT, because all of these memory features Mind Branch just talked about are exclusive to if you pay for ChatGPT, the $20 a month as an individual. There's a big step that's only $5 more, which is the OpenAI Teams thing, and you can be alone in your team. But once you pay this $25 Teams account, they cover 2 things. They're not going to use any of your data for training models, regardless of whatever set of advanced features you want to use. So that answers your point about like maybe you want the memory feature. Go wild. And the second part is that even at this very cheap $25 price, they guarantee that they're gonna defend you regarding copyright. Whatever you create, text or image, out of this
$25 team version, professional version of OpenAI's ChatGPT tools, they will defend you if you get sued regarding IP. And that's important if it starts to be a content creation tool for you, Yaman, or for any content creator out there. I recommend to do the smaller step with the $5 more, and maybe they grow a team, they collaborate with 2-3 other people. I'm in like 5 teams now, so so that I get the opportunity to join teams, and it's a nice way to collaborate on ChatGPT. It elevates the experience from dealing with it alone in your little corner to like everybody sees everybody else chat history, and you can create private GPTs for your team. Lots of cool stuff in there, but these two privacy minded points are once you step up to this $25 level.
Okay. Robert?
The developers in San Francisco told me that the memory ends after you use the system for so long. I forget what the token limit is, but there's a limit. And when it ends, they have the AI create their own notes. So the notes feature was a cool idea, but have the AI create the notes from what it learned about you. That's what my psychiatrist does with her system. She has written 7 prompts that take the audio transcript and look for different things. And she wrote very detailed prompts to do that to the system. And so that, yeah, after we get off amateur hour, we're going to start going more advanced on our prompting. That'll fix some of the error rates you're seeing, and it'll be more fun, right? Teach it about you. Teach it you like pepperoni pizza. Every time then you talk about pizza, it'll know that you like pepperoni pizza, right?
All right. Tinfoil.
Yeah, there's in the line with the same thought, the concept of creating an indexing system where the chats are basically expanded to near unlimited context windows and more efficiency. I mean, it seems like that's where things are moving in general across the industry. So you have segments or components that are output, and those can be summarized notes, or they can be high level, like detailed notes, and that information is then indexable by the agent that you're working with. And I think this is actually turning into a way to make token efficiencies better. I believe there's some white papers that have come out. I was told this in a space the other evening. So it's really exciting news because there may be a reduction in the total cost for doing things that are very large contexts, including programming.
All right, thank you. All right, that was a lot of information. Should we call it a day? We want it to be 1 hour. It's 2 hours, and I think it's going really well. AI amateurs. And so I'm going to take on this task of building tslalive.com into something useful, and that's going to be my tool to learn coding. And then I'm going to leverage AI chatbots like ChatGPT or others to learn coding while building this website, and then see how that goes. And I'll have questions next week probably. All right, great. Thank you very much, everybody. I really appreciate your presence and help and your patience as I ask these basic level amateurish questions, but I really love this space. I think this is going to be awesome. And I will chat with you next time. Take care.
That was amazing. Bye, everybody.
Bye.